Hi, my name is Chelsea Balchune. I'm a junior at Bloomsburg University and I'm a psychology major. I'm interested in the field of social psychology, which is defined as the branch of psychology that deals with social interactions, including their origins and their effects on the individual. And for my project, I've chosen to do the psychology of social norms. I chose this topic because social norms differ in every part of the world. For example, something that may be common here in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, is probably something uncommon in Paris, France. I will talk about the differences in norms from the United States, Sweden, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the Philippines. What are social norms? Social norms are defined as the accepted behavior that an individual is expected to conform to in a particular group, community, or culture. This means that in society, people are expected to act a certain way, and if they don't, they could be subjected to negative emotions and actions from others in that society. They are expected to conform to the norms. Conformity is defined as the tendency to change our perceptions, opinions, or behavior in ways that are consistent with group norms. Social norms differ from social rules. Social norms are unwritten rules that you're expected to follow, and social rules are behavior changes from group to group. Gender roles are closely tied with social norms. Gender roles are defined as the role of behavior learned by a person as appropriate to their gender, determined by prevailing cultural norms. Gender roles differ from culture to culture and from country to country. They also depend on how and by whom you were raised. For example, my grandparents, who were born in the late 1930s and the early 1940s, were raised believing that a man was supposed to go to work to support his wife and children. But me, being born in 1995, was raised to believe that I could support myself and don't need to rely on anyone to do it for me. But this can differ across societies and cultures. For example, today in the US, women are supposedly equal, but do not earn the same pay as men for the same jobs, and we are still expected to work and take care of things in the house such as cooking and cleaning. Women work in many different jobs in the US, but in Pakistan, women are more likely to stay at home with the family rather than work, but when they do work, they hold jobs in teaching or nursing. A massive difference in norms across the world are the ways in which we communicate with one another. Just to show you how different forms of communication can be across cultures, here are some differences from the United States of America and Sweden. Language is defined as the method of human communication, either spoken or written, consisting of the use of words in a structured or conventional way. In the US, there is no official language that all 50 states have agreed upon, but English is spoken by about 230 million individuals. Since the US has a high number of individuals coming from other countries, many people also speak Spanish and Chinese. The communication style here is open. We do not feel awkward talking about personal things. We also can sometimes come off as rude and self-obsessed. In Sweden, the official language is Swedish. In Sweden, individuals are humble and rarely talk about themselves to brag. They also talk with soft and calm voices. So you can tell just by looking at the communication styles of the US and Sweden that norms of communication that these two countries use are vastly different. Also, communication in developed countries relies more on the use of social media and happens more over the internet than in developing countries. In the US, there are also certain norms we follow when engaging in a conversation with another individual. We tend to look at the person we're talking to and try to keep eye contact for an appropriate amount of time during the conversation. Not long enough to make the other feel uncomfortable, but not short enough as to give the impression that you are uninterested. Our meetings are often casual and aren't seen as something to make a display of. It is not customary to touch someone while having a conversation unless that person is a family member, a close friend, or a significant other. It can be considered rude to smoke in front of another person who does not smoke while having a conversation with them. There is no specific order in which you should greet the members of a gathering. However, in the Philippines, it is important to greet the eldest guest first. You must only hug and kiss a friend if you are female and they are also a female. And you should always call a person by their professional title until that particular person invites you to use otherwise. Also, interestingly enough, most countries have their own form of sign language. Another big difference in social norms across cultures and the world are religions. Religion is defined as a particular system of faith and worship. The USA is predominantly Christian, with about 70 to 78% of people practicing. The largest non-Christian faith is Judaism, with 1.6% of the population practicing, and the second largest non-Christian faith is Islam, with 0.5% of the population practicing. In the US, Sundays are a holy day and most people go to church, but almost all shops and restaurants will still be open for business. In Afghanistan, Islam is practiced by much of its people. In the Muslim culture, Friday is the holy day, but most shops will be closed along with offices and government offices. Ramadan is a month in the Muslim culture where all Muslims fast from when the sun comes up to when the sun goes down. As you can see, Islam is practiced in the US, but not by nearly as many people as in Afghanistan. Today we learned about why social norms are important in both psychology and political science. Political science deals with analyzing behavior, and psychology is the science of behavior. Norms differ globally and can change depending on how you were raised, where you were raised, and what time you were raised. Although norms in the US differ from other countries, just because the norms here are what they are now doesn't necessarily mean that's the way they were 50 years ago. That is also true with every other country. Thanks for watching. And here's a list of sources I used for my presentation.